My name is Dr. Rob C. Thompson, and you're watching Maybe Magic, a show that asks, is this magic, maybe? Today's question: was the co-founder of the Theosophical Society and author of The Secret Doctrine, Helena Blavatsky, a fraud? Helena Petrovna Blavatsky was a remarkable person, easily one of the most colorful and arguably one of the most influential figures of the 19th century. Along with her close friend and companion Henry Steele Olcott, she founded the Theosophical Society in 1872. Blavatsky was a deeply divisive and controversial figure in her time. She was a quintessential outsider, a Ukrainian-born immigrant in America, and then an immigrant to the British Raj in India. And she was also a woman in a position of authority. Some followers would literally drop on their knees to kiss the hem of her skirt, while her detractors wrote scathingly of an ugly, masculine Russian woman crisscrossing the globe and deluding credulous fools wherever she went with her conjuring tricks. Perhaps the signature claim of Blavatsky's occult career, the theory and power behind all of these feats and phenomena, was that she was the public face of a secret group of occult masters, inaccessible to the average human. She served as a messenger, passing materialized letters and facilitating astral projections from a secret cabal who had hidden themselves away from the world, a great white lodge of the enlightened. Initially, these masters were a far-flung group situated around the globe, operating under the auspices of an organization called the Brotherhood of Luxor, somewhere in Egypt. Then, Blavatsky focused her allegiance on a secret Eastern Brotherhood of Indian Mahatmas centered in Tibet and the Himalayas. Blavatsky produced messages from these secret masters in the form of materialized letters which appeared seemingly out of thin air. Sometimes these masters wrote to other members of the society, including Henry Steele Olcott and A.P. Sinnett. These were perhaps the most significant occult phenomena that attended Blavatsky, but she produced a variety of other unusual signs of her paranormal power. She was visited by disembodied tapping sounds like the spiritualist medium's raps, as well as the silvery ringing of a bell that seemed to sound around her. After relocating to India to establish the Society's headquarters at Adyar in 1879, she materialized a cup and saucer, which the members of a picnic had to dig out of the ground. She also located a long-lost brooch in a nearby bed of flowers, and another brooch, which was inside a travel pillow, which is like a pillow for your butt for when you're, traveling. These fantastic feats, paired with Blavatsky's international reputation, prompted an investigator from the Society for Psychical Research, or SPR for short, an investigator that is by the name of Richard Hodgson, prompted him to travel to India to perform a series of interviews with members of the Theosophical Society to try and get to the bottom of Blavatsky's claims to having occult power. Hodgson had been open and even enthusiastic about the prospect of discovering Blavatsky to be a genuine occult disciple of the Brotherhood, but apparently he was sorely disappointed, because in Volume 3 of the Proceedings of the SPR, issued in 1885, the organization, reacting to his report and their own follow-up investigation, issued a series of damning conclusions. The Mahatma's letters, they said, were forgeries written by Blavatsky herself and materialized according to a scheme involving a cabinet placed in front of a hole in the wall. Blavatsky hired Confederates to pass letters into the cabinet which she claimed materialized supernaturally. Confederates meaning, people who worked for her, partners, accomplices, not folks who fought opposite the American Union. This evidence came from what was called, at the time, the Kaloum Affair, Emma Kalum, a failed hotelier who Blavatsky had hired as a servant, claimed to have carved holes all over the society headquarters at Adyar. Kalum was embittered at having had to turn to Blavatsky for help and was offered 2,000 rupees by colonial officials to help defraud Blavatsky, who they regarded as a nuisance in the Anglicization of India, or making of India into a kind of satellite of England. England, too. Blavatsky's acolytes accused Kalum of carving up the cabinet not for Blavatsky, but for the British agents, in order to make Blavatsky look like she was faking things. Society members destroyed the cabinet before it could be further investigated. Dr. Franz Hartmann pointed out that none of the phenomena produced at Adyar that he was witness to would have benefited from such a cabinet. The cup and saucer and 2 brooches had nothing to do with the cabinet after all. For Hodgson and the SBR, the presence of the cabinet was proof that Blavatsky was willing and able to fake her materialized communications from the Mahatmas, and that she employed co-conspirators in her work, namely the Kalums, although Hodgson would name several others in his report. Hodgson explained the teacup and brooches by accusing Blavatsky's personal servant Babula, who he claimed assisted Blavatsky by doing things like burying teacups for picnickers to dig up later. The brooches are harder to explain, but suffice it to say that Hodgson succeeded in throwing a shroud of doubt over Blavatsky's supernatural ability. While not obviously illegitimate, they also weren't obviously genuine. But that is not to say that Blavatsky's masters were not real, or did not possess some reality anyway. While Blavatsky may have been faking at least some of her phenomena, she was not, at her core, a fraud. This may take some getting used to. In 1888, she published The Secret Doctrine, a highly regarded work blending Hindu and Buddhist religion with Western occultism in a narrative of the creation of the universe and humanity. The Secret Doctrine was written under the influence of Blavatsky's masters and reflects deep and complex connections across cultures in the realms of belief, ritual, and mythology. She cites Plato, Aristotle, Spinoza, Leibniz, the Christian Gnostics, Jewish Kabbalists, Chinese tradition, and Japanese Shinto. She also refers to the most current and influential scientific minds of the day, Darwin, Crookes, Tyndall, Wallace, and on and on. Her most authoritative sources are Indian texts, the Vedas, Puranas, Upanishads, and Mahabharata. The central ideas of the Secret Doctrine are Indian, but she justifies them by comparing them to Western Gnostic, Kabbalistic, philosophical, and scientific theories. Many witnesses, most notably Occult, attested to her ability to quote at length from books she did not possess, or to seem to read quotations in thin air that, when checked against the often difficult-to-find originals, turned out to be more or less verbatim, exactly what was in the book. The book, The Secret Doctrine, was part of Blavatsky's broader program to preserve Hinduism and Buddhism against colonial aggression and Christianization, that whole England Too program. Henry Olcott's contributions to Sri Lankan traditional religion landed him on a Sri Lankan postage stamp, and he continues to be regarded as a national hero. Blavatsky, for her part, would help to popularize esoteric theories about Atlantis, a coming new age of spiritual enlightenment, and the power of yogic spiritual practice to a Western public fast losing touch with organized religion. She would also provide an important part of the framework for the world of alternative religions that would blossom into full bloom as what we now call the New Age movement. Blavatsky and her masters succeeded not only in making this work relevant, but keeping it relevant to the degree that I'm still talking about it and you're still listening, more than a century later. Maybe Magic is written and performed by Rob C. Thompson with video editing by Dan Rosendale.